Alhamdulillah, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, may peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Have you ever reached a moment where your heart whispered, I don't know what to say anymore? A moment where every explanation, every effort, every attempt to fix what's breaking inside you felt like pouring water into your hands, slipping away no matter how tightly you held on. Sometimes life brings you to a silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because Allah wants to teach you something only silence can reveal. There comes a time when words no longer protect you, when efforts no longer move what is stuck, when tears no longer wash away what is written. And it is here, right here, that a realization settles gently upon the soul. Not everything is meant to be solved by you. Some things are meant to be surrendered back to the one who wrote them in the first place. Allah says that He is closer to you than your jugular vein, closer to your fears than the thoughts you cannot express, closer to your wounds than the people who caused them. When you stay silent, you're not giving up, you're giving in to His mercy, His timing, His perfect unfolding. Silence becomes the language of trust, the quiet confession, Ya Allah, I leave this in your hands. Human beings are created with hearts that feel deeply. You will ache, you will wait, you will question, you will break, but every heartbreak in this dunya is a doorway, an invitation back to Allah. The things that fall apart are often the things you were clinging to more tightly than Him. The disappointments you faced were not punishments, they were redirections. The waiting you endured was not neglect, it was preparation. The silence you were pushed into was not loneliness, it was awakening. This is what Sabr truly means. Not only to endure the storm, but to stand still long enough for the storm to pass. Not to fight every wave, but to let the ocean of Qadr carry you to the shore Allah has written for you. Sometimes you want answers now, relief now, change now. But divine timing does not obey human urgency. Allah opens doors when the heart is ready to walk through them, not when the ego demands it. And perhaps the most beautiful part of silence is that it gives you the space to hear what your heart has been trying to say all along. You begin to feel how much Allah has protected you, even in the moments you felt abandoned. You begin to notice the subtle ways He replaced what you lost with something softer, deeper, more lasting. You begin to realize that every delay was a shield, every closed door a mercy, every not yet a divine embrace. Remember, the Prophet taught us that Allah is shy to leave the hands of a believer empty when they are raised in dua. So stay silent, not out of fear, but out of faith. Let Allah rewrite what you cannot rewrite. Let Him arrange what you cannot arrange. Let Him heal what you cannot reach. Your silence is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of tawakkul. And when you finally let go, when you stop forcing what is not meant for you, when you stop explaining yourself to hearts that are not written to understand you, something miraculous happens. Everything begins to fall into place. Not because you made it happen, but because Allah always knew where each piece belonged. So stay silent and let the one who never sleeps take care of what keeps you awake. Your story is still being written and the author is perfect. Silence becomes a form of surrender to Allah's wisdom when the heart is overwhelmed, because there are moments in life when speaking, explaining, or trying to make sense of your pain only deepens the ache. There are battles inside the soul that no one around you can fully understand, and sometimes even you cannot find the words to describe them. In those moments, silence is not a weakness. It is a refuge. It is the place where you stop wrestling with what you cannot change and begin allowing Allah to take over. When your heart reaches that breaking point, when the weight of what you carry becomes too heavy to articulate, silence becomes your dua. It becomes the quiet cry that rises without sound, the confession of a soul that knows its limit and recognizes the limitless power of its creator. When you become overwhelmed, your mind becomes tangled with fears, regrets, hopes, and unanswered questions. Every thought feels loud, every emotion feels sharp, and you reach a point where speaking does not bring clarity, it brings exhaustion. So you turn inward. You sit with your pain. And in that stillness, you begin to sense that Allah is near. Silence allows you to feel the subtle presence of His mercy, to hear the whispers of reassurance in your heart that words could never deliver. It is in this quiet surrender that the heart remembers. Allah sees what you cannot express. He hears what you do not voice, and He knows what you hide beneath your strength. When you fall silent out of overwhelm, you are not withdrawing from life. You are returning to Allah. You let go of the need to defend yourself, to fix everything, to understand every part of the story. You step back and allow His wisdom to unfold without resistance. This silence becomes an act of trust, a spiritual pause that says, Ya Allah, you take it from here. Not every battle requires your voice, because sometimes the more you speak, the more tangled the situation becomes. There are moments when you feel the urge to defend yourself, to explain your intentions, to fight for what is slipping away, but deep down, your heart senses that words will not change what Allah has already decreed. Some battles in life are not meant to be fought with arguments or explanations. They are meant to be faced with patience, restraint, and trust. There is wisdom in stepping back, in staying silent long enough to realize that not every storm is yours to calm, and not every person is yours to convince. Silence can feel unnatural when your heart is hurting, but it often becomes the most powerful response. When you choose not to speak, you are not choosing defeat. You are choosing dignity. You are choosing peace over chaos. You are choosing to protect your soul from being dragged into battles that drain your spirit and distract you from your journey toward Allah. There are conflicts where silence becomes a shield, guarding your heart from unnecessary pain, guarding your tongue from words you might regret, and guarding your soul from becoming entangled in negativity that serves no purpose. Silence is not always passive. Sometimes it is the strongest form of action. A refusal to engage in what does not benefit you. A refusal to let someone else's behavior dictate your character. Allah sees the intentions behind your silence. He knows when you're holding back out of wisdom, out of patience, out of fear of hurting someone, or simply because you trust Him to handle what you cannot. Some victories come not from speaking, but from letting Allah speak for you through outcomes. Life has a way of revealing truth, exposing sincerity, and correcting injustice without you having to utter a single word. When you choose silence, you give Allah space to rearrange what your words could never reach. Allah fixes what you cannot fix in ways you cannot see. And this truth becomes clearer every time you find yourself trying to mend something that keeps breaking in your hands. There are problems that stretch beyond human ability, wounds that no words can heal, hearts that no effort can soften, and situations that slip further away the more you try to grasp them. It is in these moments of helplessness that you begin to understand a profound reality. You were never meant to carry everything on your own. You were never meant to solve what belongs to Allah. What is beyond your power is never beyond His. What confuses you is crystal clear to Him. What feels impossible for you is already written, prepared, and perfectly arranged by the one who controls every outcome. When things fall apart in your life, you often try to fix them from the outside, through actions, conversations, explanations, thinking that if you just try hard enough, everything will align. But life doesn't unfold according to human effort alone. It unfolds according to divine decree. Allah repairs things at the root, in the places you cannot reach. He changes hearts without forcing them. He rearranges circumstances without your intervention. He closes doors to protect you and opens others when the time is right. You may not see the wisdom while you're in the middle of it, but He is shaping the outcome long before you understand the process. What you perceive as delays or unanswered prayers might actually be Allah working for you behind the scenes, detouring you from harm, preparing your heart, or aligning your life with blessings you can't imagine yet. So when something is beyond your ability to fix, it is not a sign of failure, it is a sign that Allah is stepping in. Letting go becomes an act of faith, and trusting Him becomes the path to peace. Allah's solutions are always more complete, more beautiful, and more merciful than anything you could create with your own hands. What breaks you is often what Allah uses to remake you, because the heart rarely transforms during comfort. It transforms in the moments when life shakes you so deeply that you can no longer remain who you were. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions, tearing down attachments, and exposing the fragility of everything you once depended on. It brings you face to face with your own limits. And in that vulnerable space, where your strength collapses and your plans fall apart, Allah begins to rebuild you in ways you never imagined. What felt like destruction is often the beginning of reconstruction. What you thought was the end of your story becomes the very chapter that awakens your soul. When a heart breaks, it becomes softer, more receptive, more humble. Suddenly you stop chasing what was never meant for you. You stop relying solely on yourself. You stop believing that your happiness lies in people or outcomes. A broken heart forces you to look upward, to seek healing not from the dunya, but from the one who created your heart in the first place. You begin to discover parts of yourself that were hidden beneath pride, distraction, or comfort. You start to see that the hardship you feared was actually a mercy in disguise, a painful but gentle push back toward the path you were drifting away from. Allah never breaks a heart without the intention to rebuild it stronger, purer, and more connected to Him. Sometimes the thing that shattered you was something you were clinging to too tightly, something you thought you needed but was actually holding you back from what Allah wanted to give you. Through breaking, He creates space. Space for wisdom, space for faith, space for growth, space for blessings that require a different version of you. Every tear, every disappointment, every closed door becomes part of a divine design meant to reshape you into someone capable of receiving more light, more clarity, and more peace. What broke you is not where your story ends. It is where Allah begins His work on your heart. Silence allows the heart to listen to what Allah is arranging behind the scenes. Because when the world becomes loud, when emotions spin out of control, and when your thoughts rush in every direction, you cannot hear the subtle movements of divine wisdom unfolding. Life's noise often distracts you from the signs Allah sends, the lessons He places in your path, and the gentle ways He is guiding you towards something better. When you become quiet, truly quiet, your heart begins to notice what your mind was too overwhelmed to see. You begin to feel the presence of a plan, a flow, a mercy working for you, even when nothing on the surface seems to be changing. Silence becomes a window into the unseen. In the stillness, you start to recognize that the delays you feared were actually protection. The unanswered prayers were part of a greater story being written. The loss you mourned was clearing space for something more aligned with your soul. But these realizations do not come when you are fighting everything, explaining everything, or trying to control every outcome. They come when you pause long enough to let your heart breathe. Silence softens the ego and makes space for intuition, an intuition guided by faith, nourished by remembrance, and illuminated by trust in Allah. Behind every moment in your life, Allah is arranging connections, timing, opportunities, and outcomes in ways far more intricate than you can comprehend. Silence does not give you all the answers, but it clears the inner clutter so you can sense the direction Allah is pulling you toward. It allows you to feel the quiet reassurance that nothing is random, nothing is wasted, nothing is unseen. Even when your eyes cannot perceive it, your heart begins to sense movement. Doors shifting, paths aligning, burdens lightening. In silence, the soul hears what the dunya drowns out, that Allah is preparing something, working through every detail, and guiding you gently toward a place only He can see. When you stop reacting, you start receiving, because so much of what you lose in life is not taken from you. It slips away while you're busy responding to every emotion, every comment, every fear, and every doubt. The heart becomes exhausted when it is always on defense, always trying to protect itself, always trying to control how people see you or how situations unfold. Reacting drains your energy, scatters your focus, and traps you in a cycle of constant emotional noise. But the moment you pause, step back, and let silence fill the space where reactions used to live, something shifts inside you. Your heart becomes open again, open to guidance, open to clarity, open to the gentler movements of Allah's mercy. When you stop fighting everything that touches your heart, you create room for Allah to place something better there. Reacting quickly often comes from fear. Fear of loss, fear of misunderstanding, fear of being hurt, fear of the unknown. But fear blocks blessings. Fear blinds you to what is quietly being written for you. When you become still, when you stop replying to every whisper of anxiety or every push from the dunya, you begin to notice signs you overlooked. You begin to feel calm in places where chaos once lived. You begin to receive guidance that was always there, but drowned out by your own responses. Receiving doesn't always mean getting what you want. It means becoming receptive to what Allah is choosing for you. It means letting His wisdom settle in your heart. It means allowing space for answers to emerge, for healing to begin, for the right opportunities to reach you. The blessings destined for you do not arrive through noise. They arrive through trust, stillness, and the quiet certainty that Allah is working in your favor. When you stop reacting to life's storms, you finally become still enough for His gifts to land. Your silence becomes a shield that protects your peace, because not everything in life requires a response, and not every attack deserves a reaction. There are words spoken against you, situations that frustrate you, and actions that wound you, but when you rush to defend yourself or justify your position, you expose your heart to turmoil and distraction. Silence does not mean weakness or submission. It is a conscious choice to guard the serenity Allah has placed within you. It is the quiet strength that says, I will not allow chaos to enter the sanctuary of my heart. In a world that often demands noise and reaction, choosing silence becomes an act of protection for your inner life. When you remain quiet, your soul finds the space to breathe. The mind stops racing with explanations. The heart stops aching with constant worry, and the spirit rests in trust. By not responding to negativity with negativity, you prevent the proliferation of pain. Every word you hold back becomes a brick in the walls of your peace, a boundary that keeps the disturbances of the dunya from piercing the calm Allah intends for you. Silence allows your energy to be preserved for what truly matters, your relationship with Allah, your personal growth, and the cultivation of patience and wisdom. Silence as a shield also helps you see clearly. When the noise fades, insight emerges. You begin to discern who truly cares, what truly matters, and where your effort will bear fruit. It gives you the power to act with intention rather than react in haste, to choose battles worth fighting and to leave the rest to Allah. Your peace is not found in controlling others or explaining yourself endlessly. It is found in choosing stillness, in letting go, in trusting that Allah's wisdom is greater than your need to be heard. In this way, silence becomes not just protection, but a sanctuary where your heart can remain untouched, unshaken, and connected to what truly sustains it. Trusting Allah means letting go of the urge to control outcomes, because the heart often suffers not from what happens, but from the relentless need to force everything to align according to our own understanding. We try to predict, plan, and manipulate situations, believing that if we just act hard enough, speak wisely enough, or convince others enough, we can shape life into exactly what we want. But life rarely bends to human will alone. Allah knows what you do not. He sees what you cannot. He measures what is best for your heart, your soul, and your journey in ways far beyond your comprehension. True trust is realized when you release the illusion of control and rest in His knowledge, His mercy, and His perfect decree. Letting go is not easy, because letting go often feels like stepping into uncertainty. But it is in this surrender that faith grows. When you stop gripping so tightly, you allow space for Allah to work in ways that words, effort, or worry could never achieve. Trusting Him means believing that what is delayed is not denied, what is lost is not wasted, and what is unseen is not absent. It means turning your heart toward Him and saying, Ya Allah, I do not know the path, but I know you are guiding me. This kind of trust transforms anxiety into patience, despair into hope, and fear into quiet assurance. When you relinquish control, you also stop punishing yourself for outcomes that are beyond your reach. You stop blaming yourself for what goes wrong, and you stop demanding that the world conform to your desires. Instead, you recognize that Allah's wisdom is shaping your life with precision, even when you cannot perceive it. Trust is the bridge between your efforts and His plan. It is the stillness in which the heart aligns with Qadr, the acceptance in which peace begins to settle, and the surrender in which every burden becomes lighter because Allah carries it with you. Divine timing is always perfect, never early, never late, and it is one of the most challenging truths for the human heart to accept. We live in a world that measures success by speed, immediacy, and results. Yet Allah's timing transcends all human calendars and expectations. What you are waiting for, what you long for, what you have prayed for with every ounce of hope in your heart is arriving exactly when it is meant to. Sometimes it feels like delay, like doors are closed, like prayers are unanswered, but that perception comes from seeing with limited human eyes. Allah sees the full picture. He knows what your heart can bear, what will truly benefit you, and what will bring you lasting peace. His timing is never a mistake, and His delays are never denials. When you trust in divine timing, you learn patience not as a burden, but as a teacher. Every moment of waiting is a lesson in reliance on Allah, a reminder that He is in control, and a space for your heart to prepare for what is to come. You begin to understand that the pauses, the setbacks, and even the hardships are part of a larger orchestration, one that is designed to protect you, to strengthen you, and to position you for blessings that would be wasted if they came too soon. The heart learns to surrender its impatience, to release its urgency, and to rest in the assurance that what is meant for you cannot miss you. And what misses you was never truly yours to begin with. This understanding transforms despair into hope. It allows you to see that every closed door, every delay, and every moment of uncertainty is not a rejection, but a redirection. When the time finally comes, what arrives will be perfect in its moment, complete in its wisdom, and aligned with the plan that Allah has been quietly arranging all along. You begin to trust that life unfolds in divine rhythm, and your heart gradually learns to move with it rather than against it. Sabr means holding yourself together long enough for Allah to open the door, because life often tests you not with what you can immediately overcome, but with what requires endurance and steadfastness. Patience is not simply waiting. It is maintaining faith, composure, and hope in the face of difficulty, uncertainty, and delay. It is the conscious choice to trust Allah when the heart aches, when circumstances are heavy, and when the world seems to demand a reaction. Sabr is what allows the believer to remain steady while the unseen hand of Allah arranges what is best, even if the timing and path are unclear. It transforms waiting from a state of despair into a state of spiritual resilience. When you practice sabr, you begin to understand that every challenge carries a hidden purpose. Every obstacle is a lesson. Every moment of waiting is preparation. And every disappointment is a gentle nudge back toward reliance on Allah. The heart learns that endurance is not about passivity, but about conscious surrender, choosing to uphold trust and maintain faith rather than giving in to frustration or despair. The Prophet taught that patience is a light for the believer, a guide through darkness, and a shield against despair. By holding yourself together, you are not merely enduring, you are actively participating in your spiritual growth, strengthening your connection to Allah, and allowing His wisdom to work in ways you cannot yet perceive. Sabr also shapes the way you see outcomes. When you exercise patience, you start to notice that doors open when hearts are ready, not when urgency demands it. Blessings arrive in measures you can truly handle, and wisdom comes in forms that patience has prepared you to receive. The soul learns that its own timing is not always aligned with divine wisdom, and in surrendering to this truth, it discovers peace. Every trial becomes an opportunity to practice trust. Every delay becomes an invitation to reflect. And every moment of endurance becomes a quiet affirmation that Allah's plan is unfolding perfectly, even when it feels invisible. Sometimes the answer to chaos is not action, but stillness, because life often tempts us to respond immediately, to fix everything, to chase every problem, as if our energy alone can set the world right. But not every struggle is meant to be confronted with movement. Some storms are not ours to quell, some conflicts not ours to resolve, and some outcomes not ours to dictate. In these moments, stillness becomes an act of faith. It is the conscious choice to pause, to quiet the mind, to let go of the urge to control, and to place trust entirely in Allah. Stillness allows the heart to breathe, the soul to reflect, and divine wisdom to unfold in ways that human effort cannot force. When you remain still amid chaos, you begin to perceive what is truly important. The distractions, the noise, and the pressure fade, and what remains is clarity. You begin to sense Allah's hand moving quietly behind the scenes, guiding circumstances, shaping hearts, and rearranging paths in ways you could not engineer. This stillness is not resignation or weakness. It is surrender. It is the recognition that some battles are for Allah to fight, some plans for Him to perfect, and some outcomes for Him to determine. By stepping back, you make room for His mercy, guidance, and provision to enter into your life, unobstructed by the turbulence of your own frantic efforts. Stillness also protects your heart from unnecessary pain. When you stop reacting, overthinking, and pushing, you preserve energy, patience, and clarity for what truly matters. It becomes a space where dua rises more purely, reflection deepens, and faith strengthens. The heart learns to rest even while circumstances are unsettled, knowing that Allah's wisdom is greater than human urgency. In this quiet, the soul discovers that answers often arrive not through action, but through waiting, trusting, and allowing divine timing to unfold in its perfect way. The heart heals in silence because remembrance flows more purely there. For when the world is loud, when voices clamor, and when every distraction pulls at your attention, the soul cannot fully connect with its Creator. Healing requires space, a quiet space where the heart can reflect, where emotions can settle, and where the pain, confusion, and longing can be placed gently before Allah. In the stillness, dua rises naturally, tears flow unburdened, and the whispers of the heart are heard without interruption. Silence is not emptiness. It is a sanctuary for the soul, a sacred moment where the connection between the servant and Allah becomes intimate, sincere, and restorative. When you retreat into silence, the heart begins to confront what it has been avoiding. Grief, regret, fear, and longing surface, not to overwhelm, but to be transformed through remembrance and trust. In this sacred pause, the soul recognizes that nothing is wasted, that every difficulty carries a lesson, and that Allah's mercy encompasses all wounds. The mind quiets, the heart softens, and the spirit becomes receptive to divine guidance and healing. It is in these moments that you realize the pain you carried was not meant to break you, but to draw you closer to the one who is your ultimate refuge and healer. The Prophet taught us that the heart becomes pure through reflection, dhikr, and sincere connection to Allah, and silence provides the perfect environment for this purification. Without distraction, the soul can feel the subtleties of divine love, the reassurance of Qadr, and the comfort of His presence. The heart learns patience, acceptance, and trust, understanding that healing is not always immediate, but it is certain when surrendered to Allah. In silence, wounds that words cannot reach begin to mend, burdens that speech cannot lighten are lifted, and the heart slowly remembers that true peace resides not in external circumstances, but in the quiet, constant remembrance of Allah. Qadr is not meant to scare you. It's meant to remind you that Allah is already ahead of your worries, because the human heart often trembles at the unknown, at the things it cannot control, and at the future that seems uncertain. We panic over what might happen, obsess over what could go wrong, and carry the weight of every what if as though it rests in our hands alone. But Qadr, divine decree, is a reassurance, a promise that nothing occurs outside the knowledge and will of Allah. Every moment of your life, every circumstance you encounter, every joy, every sorrow, every closed door, and every unexpected blessing is already written, perfectly timed, and precisely placed according to His infinite wisdom. When you understand Qadr, fear begins to loosen its grip. The anxieties about the past, the regrets about what cannot be undone, and the worries about what lies ahead start to fade, because you realize that Allah is managing what you cannot manage. Life becomes less about controlling outcomes and more about trusting the process. You may not see the whole picture, but the one who controls the picture sees every detail. Your steps, your trials, and your victories are all part of a greater design that benefits you in ways your limited perspective cannot yet grasp. Accepting Qadr does not mean passivity or inaction. It means acting with effort while surrendering the results to Allah. It means striving, praying, and taking responsibility while knowing that ultimate outcomes are in the hands of the one who is most merciful, most wise. It is a gentle reminder that life is not chaos, that every hardship has meaning, and that even when things seem uncertain or painful, they are unfolding exactly as they were meant to. Qadr teaches patience, strengthens faith, and allows the heart to rest, knowing that Allah has already accounted for every detail of your journey and is guiding it toward what is best for your soul. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where dua rises and miracles descend, because the heart, when quiet, becomes a vessel ready to receive what words and noise often drown out. In the hustle of life, in the rush of emotions and the urgency to explain, justify, or act, the soul rarely finds room to truly connect with Allah. But when you embrace silence, when you step away from the need to speak, control, or react, you create a sacred space within yourself. A space where the heart can open, where faith can deepen, and where divine guidance can flow unobstructed. In this stillness, every whispered prayer, every tear, every sigh becomes a channel through which Allah's mercy reaches you. Silence allows the soul to align with the rhythm of the unseen. While the world demands noise and immediate action, Allah often works quietly, arranging what the eyes cannot see, preparing what the heart cannot anticipate, and orchestrating what the mind cannot comprehend. Miracles often appear not in the chaos of loud effort, but in the calm of patient waiting. By remaining still, by trusting, and by surrendering, you allow Allah's wisdom to operate in ways that are beyond human calculation. Every moment of quiet becomes fertile ground for blessings to grow, for guidance to emerge, and for hearts to be healed. Moreover, silence nurtures reflection, clarity, and presence. It strengthens your ability to recognize what is truly important, to differentiate between fleeting desires and lasting gifts, and to feel gratitude for what is often taken for granted. When you practice silence, your dua is no longer rushed or distracted, and your heart begins to sense the subtle ways Allah is answering, guiding, and protecting you. In this sacred stillness, you discover that what seems like emptiness is actually fullness. That the quiet moments are where mercy descends, hope is renewed, and the soul is restored. In the end, the power of silence is not found in what is left unsaid, but in what it allows Allah to do within your life. When you let go of the need to control, when you pause amid chaos, when you trust His timing and embrace patience, you open your heart to a wisdom far greater than your understanding. Life's struggles, delays, and heartbreaks are not obstacles meant to break you. They are invitations to surrender, to grow, and to witness the perfection of Allah's plan. Stay silent, not out of fear or weakness, but out of faith. Let the one who knows your heart, who controls every moment, and who holds all things in his hands, guide your path. In that stillness, in that surrender, you will find that everything aligns, everything heals, and everything falls into place exactly as it was meant to. Trust in Allah, for He is writing a story far more beautiful than you could ever imagine, and your peace lies in letting Him lead.